as well as our solicitor, regarding your conduct in the audience and regarding the counselors' conduct on the platform. So we would ask for your cooperation so that we can get the business of the town done. As you may be aware, a couple of the counselors walked out the last two meetings, and we were not able to pay our vendors. We're elected to conduct the business of this town. That's our first obligation, to bring politics into this chamber. You have freedom of speech, press, and assembly, but you don't have the authority or the privilege of disrupting this particular chamber. It's not done in any other communities that I've observed. It's not done in Harrisburg. It's not done in the Senate, in the federal branch of government. It's not done anywhere. Why should it be done and tolerated here in the borough of Yeadon? Because people decide they're going to bring their politics into the governance of this town. So you will be given certain instructions, and I'm encouraging you tonight to adhere to those instructions. Thank you. Yeadon, Delaware County, Pennsylvania Borough Council Legislative Meeting for April 21st, 2022, 7:04 p.m. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you. Mayor Hempkins.
Present.
President Sharon Council Harris.
Present.
Vice President Loren Johnson.
Present.
Councilor Tamika Jones Waters.
Present.
Councilor Carla Brooks.
Present.
Councilor Nicole Beebe.
Present.
Councilor Toya Monroe.
Present.
Councilor Leanna Roadcloud.
Here.
Our solicitor Mark Munch.
Present.
Our finance director Nafis Nichols.
Present.
Our tax collector Yolanda Hughes. Is marked absent. Our engineer Joe Viscuso.
Present.
Thank you. Madam President, that is our roll call.
Thank you. Before we start, I'll have the Chief Burns, would you make that announcement with regards to conduct?
We had spoken about before everybody came in. We can't have the meeting completely disrupted to where the meeting can't continue. Everyone will be given 2 warnings if they're disrupting the meeting. The 3rd time, we're going to have to ask you to leave, and we'd like you to please comply with that. Nobody wants to fight with anybody in here. We'll just escort you out, and that will be the end of it for tonight.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Burns. For the reports, we have the consideration of the accounts payable list for March and April. I'd like to entertain a motion. So moved. Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and properly second for consideration of the accounts payable list approval for March and April of 2022. All in favor, would you indicate by raising your
I
hand?
have questions. I have questions.
Question. Is there a question? Excuse me, Councilor Rothschild, before you begin, we are operating under the Roberts Rules of Order. Each counselor, when a motion is placed on the floor, each counselor will have an opportunity to speak to that motion one time, not 5 times, not twice, not 3 times. You can make your comments with regards to it. If there's no answer for your question, it will be duly noted, or if there's a question that does require additional information, that can be referred to the borough manager, borough secretary, who will make a note of it and get back to you. But the continual question asking will not be entertained in the interest of getting the business of the town done in an expeditious way. Council Rothschild, you have the floor.
First and foremost, you cannot limit how many questions a counselor has. That's first and foremost. Second of all, I have some issues with respect to this accounts payable list. I have several issues. Number one, I believe we need to establish some type of process and procedure with respect to prepaying some of our expenses. It looks like one of the contractors was prepaid when that contractor's invoice should have been voted on. And it was made, a decision was made by you to prepay him $6,535 without the vote of the entire council. That's inappropriate. So we absolutely need some sort of process and procedures in place to ensure that we understand exactly who's to be prepaid without the vote of council. And I believe the only vendors that should be prepaid are vendors that are absolutely necessary, such as our utility providers, such as, for example, vendors that the police department use to process certain things to help them with their job. But just to prepay, you picking and choosing who gets prepaid is not appropriate. Now, the problems that I have with this accounts payable. We have some items on here that were ordered for personal gain. For example, 7-Eleven copy and printing for the mock trial boards that was used back in early February to embarrass Chief Paparo at the time. That was personal. The community should not be using their tax dollars to pay for something that you unilaterally decided to have created, and then we have to pay for it. I would like that charge to be taken off of this accounts payable. In addition, the Minuteman Press for the amount of $2,497.58. Again, that was for the bulk mailing and printing of the 10 facts that was distributed throughout this community. That was personal. It should not fall on the backs of the taxpayers. I would like for that to be omitted from this accounts payable. Also, Joel Avery, $4,500. I have no idea what Joel Avery has done for Yeadon Borough to date, other than help you to create the 10 facts that was distributed to the borough, defaming several individuals, including Chief Paparo. Also, with respect to the March accounts payable. With respect to the April accounts payable, I see we have invoices for Gary Core Consulting, almost $8,000 for April. We just paid you unilaterally cut a check for him for $6,500 for March, and now you're asking us to cut another check for almost $8,000, and he's the webmaster. What did he do for $8,000?
No reasons.
So that's an issue. Not only that, but Mr. Core has taken it upon himself to go on the borough's website and to try to misconstrue the statements that I made at several meetings, public meetings. He took sound bites. His job is to put up the meeting in its entirety, not to take sound bites to give the impression that someone is doing something or saying something wrong. So that's not part of his job. Our tax dollars pay him. So I don't know if he took it upon himself to do it and also made personal comments about counselors that he doesn't particularly like. That's inappropriate to go on the borough's website, the borough's Facebook, the borough's Twitter, or any other government entity. That's inappropriate. Not only did he do that, I'm still speaking, not only did he do that, but he also made a very inappropriate comment on the borough's Facebook page to a resident, a sexual inappropriate comment. That's on the governmental entity, and that is a problem. And now we're supposed to pay him for putting his personal spin on how he feels about particular individuals, me in particular, and I'm supposed to pay my tax dollars, help him feed his family? No, that's inappropriate, and it should not be allowed. It should not. Now, Mr. Dodson put in writing that he asked Mr. Core to remove that content, and Mr. Core wrote back and said he will not. He will not. And you mean to tell me we're supposed to pay this contractor? That's what we're supposed to do? No. So that's the problem. So as far as his charges, I want omitted from the accounts payable. Other charges that I have. I have other charges as well. I do too. I have other charges as well. Okay. And now, I see charges on here for flags, U.S. flags, for $473.49 for Flag Day. I do not recall any Flag Day committee being created. I do not recall any residents being asked to be a part of Flag Day festivities. So again, are we unilaterally doing what we want for these special events without the input of the community, but we're asking the community to pay for it without their input? That's not right. It's not right. I think that is
Are you finished,
all
Ms. Road Cloud?
I'm looking.
Okay. May I be?
All right, so I think that might be it. That might be it.
Page 7, they have,
Oh, I'm sorry. This is the last one. The fireworks for $2,592, again, for Flag Day. There hasn't been a Flag Day committee. I don't know of any meetings that have taken place where these decisions have been made. So why are we paying for things? Who is making these decisions? and asking the community, the taxpayer, to pay for it. It's not right.
In reference to, on page 7, under accounts payable, conferences with my name, Loren Johnson, $250. I did attend the conference, but I did pay for that out of my own pocket.
Oh, okay, so that,
That should be removed.
so can you, Mr.
Councilors, that is for a conference that's coming up in May.
Okay.
This is a different conference, but yes, I can confirm that Vice President Johnson did reimburse the borough the full amount for the conference she attended in February of this year.
I have a question in regard to that as well. Why is it just the 4 councilors here for this? Why weren't we made aware of the same conference in May? Because I didn't know about a conference.
I believe the PSBA, because all of you are registered,
So,
sent the email out,
the email-
and I only registered the persons who responded back that they
Okay,
wanted to
okay.
attend. Again, it's not too late for anyone to attend, so if any other counselor can do it, we still
all
have
right, so
time.
you're saying that this is what you plan on paying? for this?
Correct, so this
Okay.
conference isn't scheduled until May 22nd.
And Madam President, if
Yes.
I may, address the issue with the flags.
Yes.
Roy Hunter is the director of recreation. And in an effort to get things ongoing for the Flag Day parade, he did order fireworks. And Jeff ordered flags.
So that's generally the way the plans are. You can't wait till the last minute to establish what you're doing for Flag Day. Usually it's several weeks in advance, or you lose the opportunity to have them delivered on the date that is specified.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Councilor Jones Waters.
Yes, I wanted to piggyback on that as well. This is common practice. Thank you.
No, thank you, Councilor.
I missed
It's
it.
common practice. It's
Common practice,
The
okay.
board want Hunter.
The issue was participant from the community. That was the issue. The community is usually involved with respect to the activities, what type of activities are going to be performed on Flag Day. That's the issue.
Yeah, Councilor,
We do have a committee in the
Yes.
works.
So I'm asking to be
Well,
recognized.
excuse me, yes, Councilor.
Well, I'm just saying that with everything that's been going on council, since we started, there's so much going on, so much disruption, we can't get nothing done. So we have to get done, get in where we fit in. It's not that we don't want the community to be involved, we want them to be involved, we want to be involved with the community. But to keep disrupting the meetings, that's what I see, that's what's happening. You can laugh if you want, but it's the truth.
Councilor, thank you, Councilor, for the comment, and the motion is on the floor. Excuse me, Councilor Monroe is recognized, and then we will complete the vote, please, for this motion. Thank you.
Has anyone determined what the date for Flag Day is? It's not something that's publicized on the website or anywhere else. I just see references to expenses for Flag Day, but there's no date identified.
Excuse me, Mayor, Councilor Monroe, you can communicate or contact Mr. Roy Hunter. He has all the details. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Mayor will respond.
It's June 18th.
June 18th.
There's the Nile Swim Club is also doing a large Juneteenth event, and it appears that all of these monies being spent, that these events may overlap, and I'm not sure that that's the most effective use of our borough time or money.
Well, yes, Councilor Monroe, excuse me, Mayor. Councilor Monroe, there were 2 meetings that I attended with Mr. Roy Hunter and Councilor Vice President Loren Johnson. Those matters were discussed 2 months ago in preparing for these events for this summer. So I would strongly direct you to Mr. Hunter that you have access to. if you need any further clarifications or make any
You
recommendations.
don't know
Would
when.
appreciate
Madam
it.
President, I
And it
didn't
is
get no
the
report
18th.
on record.
Okay, yes, Councilor Loren Johnson, Vice President Loren Johnson, will have a report for that committee during this meeting if we may proceed. I'm going to move on.
I
The
would
vote
like
is-
to make a motion to amend the accounts payable to remove the expenses for Core Consulting LLC, one in the amount of $4,300. The second expense for Core Consulting LLC in the amount of $3,735. I would like to have those two expenses removed because of his rogue behavior and doing something totally inappropriate with respect to the borough's website, which is a governmental entity. And at this time, we need to review those expenses to ensure that work that he is obligated to perform was actually done. So that would be my motion.
That's a recommendation to amend. Is there a second?
I second the motion. To
Okay.
amend the removal of Gary Corbin, please.
Okay, so that, it's been moved and second. Is there any further questions? Hearing none, we will take the vote on to whether to amend or not amend the payments that are due Mr. Gary Corbin. Roll call vote, Mr. Dodson.
Madam President, Council Harris,
I vote against the amendment.
Councilor Johnson,
No.
Councilor Waters,
No.
Councilor Rollcloud,
Yes.
Councilor Brooks,
No.
Councilor Monroe, Councilor Monroe.
Yes.
Okay. Councilor Beatty,
Yes.
Madam President, the count is 4-3.
Did you get the vote from Councilor Johnson there?
Yes, ma'am, I have no.
Okay. The motion fails to amend. The consideration for the full accounts payable list for March and April. The motion is still on the floor. All in favor, would you indicate by raising your hand? Those opposed?
Roll call, please.
Not a roll call.
Roll
Those
call.
opposed?
No, we need a roll call. That's in Robert's rule. Roll call, please.
But it's been voted.
No, roll call. We need a roll call.
Mr. Dodson, you will note the opposition vote in its entirety.
Mr. Boggs, please. I'm requesting a roll call on the vote. Without a roll call, you cannot properly identify who voted for what. And that
Would
leaves,
you indicate the negative
I'm
votes?
talking to Mr. Boggs.
You do not have permission to talk
I
to
don't
Mr.
need your
Boggs.
permission to ask Mr. Boggs a
Go
question.
ahead, Mr. Dodson.
Mr. Boggs.
Madam President, what is it that you would like me to do?
I would like you to record the nay votes on this motion.
The nay votes would be Councilor Rollcloud, Councilor Monroe, Councilor Beatty.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Moving to the next agenda item, consideration of the cash balance reports for January, February, and March. May I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second for the consideration of the cash balance reports that are reflected in our annual budget. We have a second. Are there any questions with regards to the cash balance reports? Hearing none, all in favor, would you indicate by raising your hand?
Roll call. Mr. Boggs. Yeah, what's with the raising of the hand? Mr. Boggs, please.
Is your hands raised?
My hand is raised. Yes, I am doing that. Yes, sir. Thank you. Record those opposed. Would you indicate by raising your hand or giving a voice opposition? to the cash balance report. Would you please indicate, those that are not in favor, would you please indicate by raising your hand?
We didn't hear who was in favor of it.
The four, we raised our hands.
I didn't do that.
Come on.
Mr. Boggs, are we supposed to take roll call or not?
Yes, at least in the sense that they should break down, it should be clear who voted.
Right, right. So let's raise our hands now, do the roll call.
I'm raising my hand.
All right.
But
Okay, if you're gonna, okay, let me give the clear instruction, maybe I'll move it. Okay, okay.
But I'm asking why you're changing the way we've been voting. Like, this makes no sense.
Because this expedites the process, Councilor Beebe.
No, it's lacking transparency to the community. That's what it is. It's lacking transparency. Because when you do the minutes, you're supposed to put down who voted for what.
Mr. Johnson, we've always raised our hands for votes.
Yes.
No. Mr. Boggs. Mr. Boggs.
It is 5-2.
I can't hear you, Mr. Boggs.
My concern is just as long as it's recorded who voted what, and that's in the minutes, and that's
So the
clear.
names have to be in the minutes as to who voted what. That's what you're saying.
And we
Yes,
are recording
yes.
it.
So you have to put in there the names that,
Yes, we are recording it.
thank you,
We are
Mr. Boggs.
recording it. Okay?
Madam President, it is 5-2 in favor of cash balance.
Accepting the
report.
cash balances. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Consideration for adopting resolution 2022. We had an executive session prior to this meeting, where this, well, not this resolution, but others were discussed, both hiring and legal matters prior to starting this meeting. Would you please make a note of that, Mr. Dodson?
Yes, ma'am.
The consideration for adopting resolution 2022-002 for the delinquent real estate tax lien sale for the year of 2021. May I have a motion? Do I have a second? It's been moved and properly seconded. Are there any questions? Hearing none,
Yes, I have a question.
Councilor Monroe, you are recognized.
Are we going to be furnished with a list of those delinquent liens and a total amount?
Mr. Nafis Nichols.
Counselor, the normal process is at the end of the year, the tax collector turns over to Delaware County Tax Bureau the list of all delinquent taxes. And from there, the third party purchases that from the county. That list is a public document, but we don't have it. Well, we have it. Yes, we have it, but we've never supplied it in the past. We most certainly can make it available.
Would you make sure that's available on the website, Mr. Nichols?
Yes, I will make sure it's up by folio number so that we won't have names.
Okay, thank you. All right.
So the entire list you said will be available on the website?
Yes.
Only the folio numbers.
So what happens when people have a special agreement with delinquent taxes? Will those be reported until the delinquent tax bill is satisfied? Or will that just be kind of swept under the carpet?
She can contact you for that answer later. Counselor, we'll defer that to the finance director, and he can prepare that. He can prepare that for you later.
Like, for instance, if our council president had delinquent taxes that weren't being paid, I'd like to know.
Counselor, we're not going to resolve. We're not going to lower our standards here in this meeting for personal attacks, and we thank you. Moving to I'm calling for the vote. I'm calling for the vote to sell the delinquent tax, real estate tax liens for 2021. All in favor, would you indicate by raising your hand? Those opposed?
My vote is no, because
Uh,
I would want to make sure that
Uh,
no one is receiving.
The motion carries. Thank
Because
you.
if they're-
So you can indicate, Mr. Dodson, those.
I don't even see how Mr. Dodson indicating anything, because I didn't raise my hand and I didn't open my mouth. And that's one of the reasons why you should be taking a roll call.
And I didn't
That's
check
one
them
of the
out. And I-
reasons
and
why.
I-
And if you
check them out.
abstain from the vote, it's considered
I
a
didn't
no
abstain
vote.
from no
by
vote.
the-
I just
by the
didn't raise my
Robert's
hand.
rules.
I
You
didn't raise my
raise your
hand.
hand and you did
No, I
give a
did
voice
not.
vote. Ms. Rose Cloud, it will be regarded as a,
No, you don't regard my vote. You don't do that.
okay, Ms. Rose Cloud, either you voted or you didn't. It's not rocket science. Thank you. Okay. Yes, Councilor Johnson. Councilor Johnson is recognized.
I think it is awful that Councilor Monroe gets on the telephone instead of coming here and being here in person, just like the rest of us, and to make about taxes and someone's taxes not being paid.
Point of privilege, point of order,
And
point
she
of
just
order.
spent $60,000 to get her taxes out of the tax. I think it's awful.
We won't.
Point of order, so here we go. It's okay for your people to sit up and attack, but it's not okay for no one else to attack.
Councilor Road Cloud.
So when a
we're moving
point
the
of order
agenda,
is put on the floor, we're supposed to just go back to the business.
and we are going to do just that. New business, consideration to establish the custodial holding of all social media registration and confidential information of Yeadon Borough websites and domains, including Facebook, Borough blog, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and all other communication-related information of Yeadon Borough with the Borough Secretary and successive Borough Secretaries as appointed by Council. The motion is on the floor. May I have a vote, a motion? It's moved.
Excuse me.
It's been moved and properly seconded.
As the secretary, I would ask that all councilors, when making the motion and second the motion, that you speak so I can hear who is actually first and second the motion, please. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Councilor Road Cloud is acknowledged.
It appears to me this is related to the elected officials and the administration of Yeadon Borough. So what are we putting in place for contractors, road contractors, when they have access to our social media websites? So what are we putting in place to protect us, the administrators, the elected officials, the employees, co-workers? What are we doing? So it seems to me you're more concerned about your co-counselors putting something out there on you, but you're not concerned about making sure when we're conducting government business that we're doing that properly to keep us protected from rogue contractors like Gary Core.
Calling for the vote, all in favor of establishing.
Well, I'm asking to be recognized.
Councilor Monroe, you are recognized.
Thank you. So, taking charge of our social media was something that should have been done by this contractor that was hired, when all communications were turned over, all admin was turned over on January 18, 2022. My question is, how is this person that we are continuing to pay keep falling short of their responsibilities to protect this borough?
Excuse me, yes, Councilor Jones Waters now has the floor.
So, to my understanding, I believe that all of the social media that's under the Yeadon Borough Council has been hijacked by Jennifer Huff, who was the former person that was responsible for the website. So it was hijacked by her and it was hijacked by you.
All access was turned over to Gary.
Yes, we do have confirmation that Ms. Huff from Huff Communications
She shouldn't have got
does
paid.
in fact still have control of the Yeadon Borough Facebook account and has refused to release that account
She needs to be sued.
to the borough secretary. So we do have that information. And Ms. Monroe actually was given administrative access to take information down off of the website and to put her own information onto the website without authority of this council.
I would like
and
to call
without-
point of order, please.
Okay. So that, just to clarify the question Ms. Monroe had as it relates to this matter. Now, the motion has been made, it has been seconded, we have entertained questions. Now I'm calling for the vote.
So as long as your friend is in position
Counselor,
and you
you're
continue
not-
to pay
Counselor,
him
you're-
to
Counselor.
defame me and to continue to
So-
allow him to
Uh,
go
Ms.
onto
Monroe.
our borough website to
So
put
the
what
vote-
he wants on
I
there, it's
second.
okay. That's what you're saying.
It's been moved
That's what
and
you're saying.
properly seconded. It's been moved and properly seconded. All in favor, would you indicate by raising your hand?
That's right.
Those opposed? Those opposed?
I am opposed. I am opposed and opposed.
I'm opposed.
All right. Would you indicate, excuse me.
This is a
Excuse
joke.
me, would you
This is a
indicate
joke.
the
This is
nay
a
votes,
joke.
Mr.
Your leadership
Johnson?
is a joke.
Thank
Madam
you.
President, it's your pleasure. The nay votes are Councilor Roadcloud, Council Monroe.
People know because
Counselor-
we said we oppose, so they
The
heard.
motion carries 4-3.
This is a
Thank
joke.
you, Mr. Dodson. Consideration, the next item on this agenda is consideration to have council sign an official resolution for the DCNR Bureau of Recreation and Conservation Grant for Phase 2 of the Community Park improvements. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Are there any questions? Hearing
Yes,
none.
question.
Yes, Councilor Beatty.
Explain for the public's benefit what this is, what this would mean for you.
Mr. Dodson, would you please?
I'll be happy to. This grant is for $112,000. We're matching it with an additional $112,000. This came under the previous administration. We will be having a meeting with our engineer. We're going to look at the equipment that we will be purchasing for Community Park. And I will tell the public, as I will tell you, that we are very excited about it. We have a tot lot, so look forward to great things happening in Community Park.
Thank you, Mr. Dodson. All right, the vote, I'm calling for the vote. All in favor, would you indicate by raising your hand?
Councilor Monroe asked to be recognized.
Recognize that questions as well before we take the vote.
Councilor Monroe, you have the floor.
Thank you. Our very own senator is weary of putting money into the hands of this borough, given the state of the current leadership. What are we doing to ensure that these monies are going to make it to the appropriate place, and not to assist other people's tax?
Thank you for your observation, Ms. Monroe. The vote, would you indicate by raising your hand in favor? No, it's 5 this time, sir. Thank you, sir. Those opposed?
I oppose.
Okay, Councilor Roadcloud is opposed. Councilor Monroe?
Is there a vote from Councilwoman?
Yes, Mr. Dodson, would you please?
What is her indication, please? Thank you.
Okay. The vote carries. Thank you. A consideration for approving the Senior Community Services SCS donation of $7,500, which is an annual request by the Friendship Circle facility that have serviced our seniors for about 35, 40 years here in the borough. I'd like to have a motion to approve.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah, I'm going to give you, yeah, you'll be able to question right after we place the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Now for the questions, Councilor Deeds.
The $7,500 would be for exactly what?
Mr. Dawson.
$7,500 is a tradition, I won't say the word tradition, but for a number of years, we've made that contribution, and they use it for the facility, they use it for seniors, they use it for meals. So each year, they come and ask our council.
And transportation.
And transportation allocate $7,500, and thankfully, that we are able to afford them the $7,500.
Thank you.
Yes, the mayor has the floor.
Yeah, that's an organization that does a really great job for us. They give homebound seniors meals, the Meals on Wheels program.
Okay.
A lot of members of our church was part of that. And they take meals, they read to the elderly, they take them shopping and things like that. So it'll cost us 100 times more than what we're donating for the services they render the aid. So that's something that's really, really, really well
All
worthwhile.
right, thank you.
All right. We will now take the vote. All in favor, would you
I have a
indicate?
question. I'd like to be recognized.
Councilor Monroe, you have the floor.
Something's on the screen. Councilor, roll call.
Okay,
Motion.
Here she go. Go ahead.
Or are we just,
You gotta start over, you gotta start over.
I said, are we opening these grants up to everyone, or are we just taking these requests one-off? With the organization process for accepting these grants in previous years, we opened a grant window for all agencies seeking money from us for any type of financial assistance to apply.
I don't have an answer. Mr. Nichols will address your question. Councilor Monroe.
Yes, Councilman Monroe, as the process was established in the 2022 budget process, there were applicants for the grants to be awarded. This was one. We just did the formal process with having it on the agenda. So this was something that was allocated for in the 2022 budget, along with two other organizations that applied that the previous administration approved in, I believe, December of 2021.
Okay, all right. We're calling for the vote. By Robert's rules, Councilor, we're going to pass on any further comment. We're calling for the vote. All in favor, would you indicate by raising your hand? Those that are opposed, would you indicate by voice? Councilor Monroe, we're waiting for your vote.
This is for the seniors, right?
That is correct.
Yes, the seniors.
Okay.
Our senior citizens.
Okay. Okay. The motion carries. We have one abstained vote. We have one vote opposing. The motion carries.
5-1, one abstention.
Consideration for council to advertise and request proposals for a consultant for the recruitment of a police chief for the borough of Yeadon. Is there a second?
Second.
Pardon me? It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Councilor Roadplow.
So, this motion to appoint proposal for a consultant. Have we conducted any interviews today?
That's not that is not how the process begins.
No, I just asked the question. The question is out there, simple, yes or no. Have any interviews for the position of the Yeadon Borough Police Chief have been conducted to date?
Mr. Dodson, would you answer?
No, ma'am. Madam Counselor, you asked me that question offline, and I indicated to you by email that there were no interviews, and I also called the mayor and asked him if there were any interviews conducted. He said ethically, absolutely not, and I told you personally in the email that we would never do that without consulting counsel.
Okay, well, let me just inform you
Yes.
of something, Mr. Dodson.
Yes.
Okay. It has come to my attention that at least one interview has been conducted to date. At least one. It has come to my attention that 2 individuals were solicited by some Yeadon Borough officials to apply for the job, and one of those individuals have actually had an interview. That has come to my attention. Now, I'm sorry. Oh, so I have a couple of names here. I have a Jameson.
You cannot discuss as a secretary.
No, because we're talking about transparency. And because the process was broken, these individuals should not be allowed to participate because someone wanted to be nickel slick. So I have a Jameson Reynolds and I have a Raheem Blanson. That's what I have.
Madam President,
So all I'm saying is we're not supposed to solicit, and these happen to be 2 African American men that were solicited. So what I'm saying is, because they were solicited by an individual from Yeadon Borough, the process has been flawed, and they should not be considered. So we're kind of putting the cart before the horse.
Okay, Counselor.
So somebody messed up.
Mr. Dodson.
I will state for the record, to my knowledge. Excuse me. You asked me, I will respond.
The gentleman with the camera, could you stand up and give us your name, please?
Why?
Are you a resident here?
Yes.
What's your street? What street?
Do not answer that. Do not answer that.
It doesn't matter.
We have a standard protocol.
No, do not. He is in a public meeting.
You have.
How are you going to just point a person
I'm
out?
curious as the president of this council. I'm curious.
No, that's inappropriate. Don't do it. Do not identify. If he identified himself, everybody in this room can identify themselves.
I'm curious.
Why you just want to point someone out like that?
Councilor, roll call.
No, you're wrong. You're wrong for that.
You do not have the.
You're wrong for that. And why did you do it?
He picked the camera up and took.
Why did you do it?
Started to talk.
Why did you do it? Did you do it because he's white? Why did you do it? Why did you do that?
It's my business and my prerogative, Counselor. It's my business and my prerogative.
For the record,
Mr. Dodson.
I have no previous knowledge, and I am the personnel person for the borough. I have no previous knowledge that any person by any name, by any race, by any gender was interviewed for a position in the police department, and I state that for the record. Hearsay is hearsay. I will put my name on this table. I will pledge on the Bible and the Quran that I had nothing. We did not interview one single soul for police chief.
You can only speak for yourself. Only speak for yourself.
Let's go.
Okay, we're gonna move on. The consideration, item D.
In addition,
The
in
motion
addition
is on the floor.
with the pending lawsuit, I don't think it would be
The motion is
feasible
on the
to
floor.
look for
I
another
do not
police chief
recognize
with this
Ms.
pending
Rothwell.
lawsuit.
All in favor? Okay, the mayor has a question.
Or a comment.
That's
A
not
comment.
right.
The mayor has a comment.
Okay, let me start by saying, I'm the mayor, I'm in charge of the police department. They work closely with me, in my office, and so I have as high a stake in this as anybody else. It's my responsibility to which I was voted in. I've also been a 40-year resident of this borough. I served 7 years in the Civil Service Commission, 5 years on the zoning board. So I have a lot of experience in doing this and a lot of history. There was a historian named Santayana, and I remember one social studies teacher told me, why should you study history? Santayana has a statement that is like, who cares what happened 10 years ago? Who cares what happened 50 years ago? Santayana, this historian, said, those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it. 20 years ago, we were at the same juncture, same place. We fired Chief Molyneux, okay, 20 years ago. And what happened was, well, no, hear me out. I have the right to speak as the mayor. Okay, please. Okay. Let me speak. We fired Chief Molyneux. He sued for wrongful termination. So we made a mistake there. We lost that case. We had to pay back pay, penalties, and everything else. Okay, because he was wrongfully terminated.
Why?
The council, because they wanted a black chief. I'm telling you what happened. I'm telling you what
That's
happened.
impossible because they interviewed three black chiefs over the white chief and they took
20
the white
years
chief.
ago. I'm talking about
Come on,
20
man,
years
let's keep
ago.
it real.
I'm talking are you telling me what my experience is? I was on the Civil
Yeah, I'm
Service
just saying
Commission.
about your experience when I get a chance to talk.
Okay. So he got his job back with back pay and everything else. We're at a junction now where should we hire a new chief or should we, I want to speak to that, but I had to give a run up to how we got there. They decided 20 years ago not to hire a chief in the interim and to let the legal process play out. And then what happened was he got his job back and was reinstated. If we, at this juncture again, we already made some mistakes in my opinion, but if at this juncture we hire another chief, he gets his job back, Chief of Borough, then we have two chiefs that we got to pay with a contract and everything else. Is it really wise to do that right now? And not let the process play out? I'm just, again, history, we've made a lot of mistakes. We're condemned again to repeat it, I fear. That's all I have to
Okay,
say.
the motion is on the floor. All in favor, would you indicate?
Mr. Mayor, why did he get his job back?
Because he was wrongfully terminated.
Excuse me.
I'd like to be
Okay.
recognized.
Those are,
wants to be recognized. Councilman Monroe asked to be
Yes.
recognized.
no, we've already.
No, she asked to be recognized before that. She did. Yes, she did. It's not about your ears not hearing it.
Is there a motion on the
We
floor?
had the motion, there's been comments. Ms. Monroe, I'm gonna extend your, opportunity to speak. Are there any comments?
It's like
Okay.
what's happening with Restore.
Okay, now, Counselor, you're putting a motion on the floor to table. Is there a second to table?
I second.
Okay, are there any questions with regards to the tabling? Hearing none, we're gonna vote on whether or not to table. Those in favor of tabling or against tabling, would you please indicate by raising your hand? Yes, to table, she put a motion on the floor. There's a second. She put a motion on the floor to table. There is a second. Are there any questions regarding tabling?
Who's the second, please, Madam?
I'm the
Clerk?
second.
Thank you, Ms. Wu.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions regarding tabling? Hearing none, indicate by raising your hand. If you're in favor of the tabling, raise your hand. If you're against the tabling, that'll be the next process. So those that are in favor of tabling, would you indicate by raising your hand or your voice? Okay, Councilor Beatty is in favor of tabling. Would you indicate that?
Councilor Rollcloud is in favor of tabling.
Would you indicate that? Councilor Monroe. Those that are opposed to tabling, would you indicate by raising your hand? The motion fails. Back to the original motion, would you indicate?
May I make a statement?
Yes, yes, Councilor
This
Johnson.
is simply consideration to advertise and request proposals for consultants. That's it. No big deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor, for the clarification. Councilor Beatty.
What is he consulting or she consulting us on?
The general process will involve receiving proposals from agencies that specialize in recruiting chief of police. When the proposals are submitted to our borough manager, they will be reviewed. Then we will come back to this body to get an approval for a particular agency to do a search.
Okay.
There will also be a confirmation of a committee, a public service, public safety committee with guarding,
But isn't that what the Civil Service Commission does?
not for the police
Oh,
chief
not for the
search.
chief, okay.
That is
All right.
correct.
Okay.
So there will be a committee that will work in concert with this agency. And we hopefully will get some excellent candidates through the tri-state area
Well, you
for a new
already
police
solicited
department.
too.
Thank you. All right, all that are in favor of as Councilor Johnson has clarified, the consideration to.
No, there's a motion to amend.
No.
There's a what do you mean, no? There is a motion to amend. There's a motion to amend. No, it's not. There's a motion to amend. There's a motion to amend to exclude. No, there's a motion to amend to exclude Raheem Blandon and Jameson Rogers.
This is like crazy. We're not
They
addressing.
were solicited.
Counselor.
They were solicited. They were solicited.
We're not taking myths here today. We're not taking myths. And we simply are going to move this vote. Those that are in favor, would you?
No,
indicate
we
by
have a
raising your
motion to
hand?
amend to exclude those two individuals.
There's a motion on the floor pertaining to
For the advertisement of an agency.
consideration for a proposal for a consultant for the recruitment of police chief. Please indicate.
All right? Mr. Dodson, the motion carries.
Mr. Boggs, I'm glad you're getting all this free money because your job is easy.
Okay. Now, item number 7. Item number 7 on the agenda, excuse me, F. F. The consideration for council to appoint members of the police chief search committee. It's been moved and properly second. Are there any questions with regards to the appointment of members for the police chief search committee? Yes, Councilor Beatty is recognized.
How are we advertising people for the search committee? Who are we selecting? Who makes the
It's
decision?
only from councilors for the search
So we
committee.
just have names, we're giving.
So if you can volunteer to be on that committee,
Okay.
all right? Any of councilors,
People from
any of the
the community?
councilors, not from the community.
Okay, just councilors.
Can't get involved.
Not sure about.
Councilor Monroe has a question, and I have a question as well.
Oh, I see. Yeah, we can, the solicitor says that, as with the other legislative committees that are appointed by the council, if there are any persons from the public, from the audience that would like to serve, we'll probably limit that interest to to 2 people from the community, and we'll take your information and we'll follow up with you at the close of this meeting. At the close of this meeting. The committee, it's a president that will run the committee, yes. There will be a committee of 5. There'll be a committee of 5 council members for this select committee. All of council, of course, can participate in the, excuse me, with regards to when we made the selection for the former chief, all 7 council members, we have hearings in this chamber to go to interview and to go over the resumes and recommendations that are given us. The important thing about a search committee is that they have a wide range of experience in assisting other municipalities throughout the Commonwealth to select the best qualified. They go through a number of other types of activities with regards to psychological testing and other things. So that type of agency is recommended in best practices. And we want to provide for Yeadon the very best outcome we can get. Thank you. Okay, the motion is on the floor. All in favor?
I have a question.
Councilor Monroe has to be recognized.
That is correct. You're automatically on that. Yeah, automatic.
Councilor
And
Monroe
Councilor
has to
Beatty.
be recognized.
Okay,
And I has
Councilor,
to be recognized after Councilor Monroe.
Councilor Monroe, consideration for council to appoint members of the police chief search committee. Do you have the agenda, Councilor Monroe?
I said, are we engaging a search committee or are we?
No, do you have the agenda, Councilor?
Because those 2 things are.
There are two separate items on the agenda, Councilor. You don't have the agenda.
Search committee doesn't use volunteers.
Okay, Councilor, we,
How are you also taking community volunteers?
okay, all right. Okay, to appoint the police chief committee,
You know I asked.
that
You
message,
asked.
yes, okay, I know, I'm
Yeah,
getting to it. I just want to make sure that it's clear what we're doing, because Councilor Monroe combined the 2 items. Councilor Roadcloud, you have an agenda, could you please?
This
add
is
your
probably
comment.
more for the solicitor. With respect to consideration for council to appoint members to the police chief search committee, with respect to the, excuse me, pending lawsuit and the councilors that are named as parties in this litigation, would it be feasible for them to recuse themselves from this process?
I think Mr. Much answered that in an email earlier.
I see.
Yeah, it's not our position at this time that's going to be a problem.
At this time, it's not your position. So it could possibly be your position at another time. Is that what you're saying?
I very rarely speak in absolutes. I'm pretty sure of this at this time, but anything can change at any moment.
Yeah, I just don't want these, I don't want to see councilors get into additional
I don't think
issues with
there's any
respect to
issue with counselors. I think your point was and we've talked about this, is whether or not the police chief is reinstated. That is something different than who.
No, I'm talking about this committee,
Yes,
this
yes, so-
police chief search
Right,
committee.
so if the police chief gets reinstated, that would have its own separate problems. But who gets to pick who the new chief is, there's really no issue with
There's no
conflict.
conflict? Okay, well,
Okay, thank you, Mr. Boggs.
I have a brief,
Mayor.
yeah, I do have a brief.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mayor.
I just want to make sure that I'm on record again to oppose this, because I think it's premature. I think that we should hold off on this. I think that it puts the cart before the horse, and I think it's more prudent to hold off to see what happens in the lawsuit, because we're really running ahead of ourselves on this thing, and it could really jam up the borough. So I want that recorded. I want to make that.
Excuse me, yes. I want to make it abundantly clear that we have a town to run, we have a government to run, and whether we can agree to disagree, Mr. Mayor, and I disagree with you wholeheartedly. And I think that what's important here tonight is move through the process. Let the process work. And whatever other ramifications to this process, there's more process to process that. So Councilor Vice President Johnson.
Again, this is a consideration for council to appoint members for a search. The search may be done in November. It's simply a search to put members together. That's it.
Thank you, Councilor. Now for the vote, all in favor, which you indicate by raising your hand. Those opposed, which you indicate by raising your hand.
I oppose.
Okay. And Councilor Monroe. Councilor Monroe.
It's the same three.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries.
Motion carries.
Ought to be the same three, so y'all don't speak for me. So let all y'all agree.
Thank you.
Everybody up here and out there, y'all don't speak for me. Understand that?
That's great.
Okay?
That's great. Thank you, Councilor.
And that's a
Thank
Don't
you,
let me
Councilor.
have to let y'all.
That's a good point, because I don't tell nobody how to
That's
vote.
right.
I do not disrespect nobody's vote, so nobody should tell me how to vote.
That's right.
And nobody
Simple as
thinks.
that, and that goes for everybody in this room.
That's right.
Everybody.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Councilor.
Everybody who ain't in the room too.
Thank you, Councilor.
Understand that.
All right,
Get on.
all right, thank you. Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Beatty. So that we're not here to 9 o'clock. If we may move the agenda, please. Number F, consideration to have the street banners printed and installed around the borough in the amount of $9,440. I'd like to entertain the motion. Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded for the banner project for the borough of Yeadon. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Councilor Roadcloud Councilor Roadcloud has the floor.
Read the thing.
Okay, yes. Oh, he did make the announcement. Yeah, he made the announcement, Mr.
And we want to go by rules and regulations.
Okay, Councilor, I can't hear you. Could you speak into your mic? Excuse me, Mayor. Excuse me, Mr. Dodson. The councilor has the floor. Councilor Roadcloud. Yeah, just. Yeah, okay, good. Mr. Mayor, we want to hear from Councilor Roadcloud.
So, with respect to these banners, I only received one proposal. Were there other proposals provided?
Initially, they wanted $14,000.
No. I only received one
Okay,
proposal.
Councilman.
Were there
Yeah,
other
I wouldn't ask.
proposals? Because when we want to get projects done, we should have at least 3 proposals. And we go with the best proposal, not necessarily the cheapest, but the best qualified proposal. To go with just one proposal does not give us the opportunity to find out whether or not we can get a better deal from elsewhere. So that's a problem. That's a problem. Number 2, with respect to getting the banners, I think it's a wonderful idea. I just feel like right now it's not feasible. It's not feasible. It's not feasible because number 1, just in the executive room, we're sitting on chairs that's all cut up and covered with duct tape. So we're gonna spend $10,000 to line the street with some banners, and on the second floor, one of the windows is being held closed with rope, yellow rope.
How long? How long is that?
So bottom line is, we're putting lipstick on a pig right now. We need to work from the inside. We need to work from the inside going out. But again, we should have at least 3 proposals, not just one. It's not right. We're not being fiscally responsible with these tax dollars to just take one proposal and go with it.
Question.
Yes,
Were
Councilman
these
Beatty.
banners already purchased? Were they already made up and purchased?
They are
Are they
not
already
purchased.
done?
Councilor Jones, they're not done, they're just guessing. Okay, all right, now we will call for the vote. Any other questions with regards to the banners? Hearing none, let's call for the vote. All in favor, would you indicate by raising your hand? Those that are opposed, would you indicate by raising your hand or voice vote?
I oppose.
Okay, all right.
So no from my brother.
So the motion carries. Thank you. Okay, now,
One bid and you accept it.
yes, the mayor's report.
Okay, my
Okay.
report will be brief. I just want to report to the councilors and the residents that, as you know, we were granted the county health department right there at 125 McDade and, Chester Avenue, 125 Chester Avenue, and the old Acme Shopping Center. And tomorrow, there's going to be a announcement or a grand opening. First, we got the health center there, for COVID and different testing. Now it was announced that that site is going to be the permanent, from what I understand, Delaware County Health Department. Delaware County didn't have a health department before, and with the new counselors, they're able to get that granted by the state. So tomorrow at 10 o'clock, there's going to be a grand opening of that at that site. So anyone who is available to come out. So that's a good thing. I'm going to end on a positive, 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. Okay, that's all I have to report, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the President's report, mine is very, very brief. I want to continue to encourage residents to come out to these meetings and to participate and let us hear your voice as to what your expectations are of this council. The other thing is that you would encourage the members of this council to represent you with dignity and with respect and with fidelity. If we can get that done, we'll look like other communities and not look the opposite of other communities. Also, I want to announce that we do have a newsletter that's going to be distributed next week. We'd like to get your feedback on that newsletter when you're in receipt of it. It's very inclusive as to what you have shared with us, some of you have shared with us in the past that you would like to have and see a community news publication. That is in essence what my report has. Now for the manager's report, Mr. Dodson.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for being recognizing me, Madam President. I would like consideration in my report to appoint Alice Minanachi. I cannot pronounce her last name, but I would say it's Pakathinian, as the library director.
Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Is there a second? It's been moved and properly second. At the recommendation of Yeadon Public Library Board President and her board members, the recommendation to hire a new library director. Can I have, are there any questions? Hearing none. Can you please indicate approval of the new library director by raising your hand? Library director by raising your hand.
Hello, counselors.
Library director. Those opposed?
I vote yes.
Councilor Monroe.
I don't need you to say.
Councilor. Councilor Monroe. Excuse me, ladies. Councilor Monroe, are you in favor? Did she say yes? I can't hear you, Councilor Monroe. Are you in favor of the voting yea or nay for the appointment of a new library director for the Yeadon Public Library?
My vote is no.
Okay, the motion carries 6-1. Thank you, Councilor.
I'm asking council the consideration to have Kelly Milo Architects conduct a feasibility study for the Yeadon Swim Club.
Is there a second? It's been moved and properly second to appoint the Kelly Mayo, may not pronounce that correctly, architects to conduct a feasibility study for the Yeadon Swim Club site. I've got the, okay. Any questions?
Yes, yes.
All right,
I have a
Councilor Roseland.
I thought we were told at the last meeting that a feasibility study was already performed about last year or the year before. Councilor Monroe indicated that it was done. So what's the deal?
Okay, yes, Councilor Roadcloud, we verified the information that Councilor Monroe so astutely declared. The information was not correct. Apparently, there was a survey and not a feasibility study.
Correct.
The distinction between the two, excuse me, Councilor, Mr. Dodson consulted with the former engineer who verified that only, excuse me, Councilor, that the only type of appraisal or, excuse me, Councilor, you were wrong. Counselor, you were wrong. And the borough engineer verified that no feasibility study had been done. So the motion, we tabled it, we brought it back here tonight. After the verification that Councilor Monroe either misunderstood the question or simply did not relay accurate facts to this body. So that's the, okay, I'm not sure about what she's talking about. But
Mr.
we're
Nichols,
not
can
sure
you
about that.
elaborate?
We're not sure about
My
that.
question is that, Mr. Nichols.
Mr. Nichols, can you
Yeah,
elaborate?
Mr. Nichols.
Did you pay for a feasibility study under the leadership of former council president?
council approved the feasibility study. I have to go back and see it. There's some hard documents that are back in the
It was-
office.
it was-
I just got back in the office, as you all know. This just was brought to my attention today.
Let Mr. Dodson, Mr. Dodson, would you please report?
Yes,
Thank you.
For the record,
Yes, for the record.
Councilman Monroe stated that there was a feasibility study. I emailed Councilman Monroe with a document that showed that could this possibly be the feasibility study that you're talking about, which turned out to be a survey. She replied that no, this is a survey. I said to her, excuse me.
Go ahead, Mr.
I said to Councilman Monroe, would you be kind enough to send me the name of the firm who did the study for the feasibility study? She never sent me an email with the person's name or the firm. I also contacted the engineer and asked the engineer, was there
Miss
a...
Mulvaney?
I asked the engineer, our previous engineer, Ms. Mulvaney, if there was a feasibility study. She said absolutely not. I went to our finance clerk. I asked her to pull the invoice. To indicate that a feasibility study had been done in the past. There was no feasibility study for an invoice. She did indicate that there was a survey done that cost $7,700 for the Yeadon Swim Club. If there is, ladies and gentlemen, if there is a feasibility study, this is only a proposal. If she will produce the name of the firm who did the feasibility study, it would make no sense for us to spend money for a feasibility study that's already been done.
That's giving her the benefit of the doubt.
And also, I sent an email to Council Monroe requesting the feasibility study be sent to
claims she had it on her
immediately.
computer.
She never sent it.
So, but at our last meeting,
The
Councilman
one you walked
Monroe,
out.
and I walk out again each and every time you want to be
That's not
unscrupulous and unlawful.
why you were
Yes,
elected.
I will not be a part of your unscrupulousness and unlawfulness. That I will not be. So, with respect to the feasibility study, Councilman Monroe did advise at the last public meeting the name of the architect. Yes, she did. She did too. Well, then let's ask. We can ask right now. See everything. Listen.
Madam President, may I be recognized? It is not that complicated. It's not that complicated.
She's on the line right now.
No.
We can ask her again, what's the name of the architect?
Ma'am.
All we gotta do is ask. Yeah, it's no more, right? Ask her, what's the name of the architect? Councilman Monroe, what is the name of, why don't you wanna know? Why aren't you asking her for the name of the architect?
She should have
She said it last time.
She did. She should have.
Like, Councilor Brooks said she did mention the architect at the last meeting. It sounds
Not in the minutes.
so she just explained. It's not in the minutes because the minutes are not being recorded properly.
All right.
So, Councilor Monroe.
Right along.
So,
Point of order.
so